Hey, Gabriel.
Hey, Gaybros, Jose.
Where are we today?
Today, we are in a forest in Buena Vista Park in San Francisco.
Oh, what brought us here?
Curiosity and a love of nature.
Exactly. Yeah, just walking around, enjoying, like the last, how do you say it? The long tail of the pandemic, now that it's coming to an end, seeing how people are socializing, thanks to this, about just feeling more comfortable with each other,
And,
I think.
Not social distancing, getting a little bit more intimate, closer.
Yeah, let's see. let's see what we see. In any case, what did we watch today?
This was my pick, right?
Yes.
And this is a movie I talked about making us watch a couple months ago, right? Because I came across it on a list of interesting movies that you probably didn't see. And so this was a Brazilian film called Bacurau. Is that how you say it?
Bacurau. Yeah.
Bacurau. And it's my pick.
Was this number 10? Number 10 will shock you. And it was Bacurau.
Those are the lists I love.
There you go. BuzzFeed is never wrong. Okay. Yeah, and this was a pick, so I should summarize it. So, Bacurau takes place in Brazil in a near slightly dystopian future, but never too crazy dystopian. Always just pretty, stuck in reality. And it's the story of this small village called Bacurau, that they are just struggling with the lack of water, the lack of supplies, how there is a politician that wants to gather their votes, but they do not want to bend over for him. So, spoiler alert, the politician sends a bunch of American killers for just basically murder them. I'm summarizing a lot in here.
There's a lot, and I will say that this is a difficult film to summarize.
Yeah, let's say that there are two parts. One of them is a bit more stuck in reality and just trying to give this village that most of the actors, they probably are not actors, that they are just regular Brazilian people. And then there is the second part that basically turns into a Tarantino action film with ton of violence, shooting, and action.
And it's a spaghetti western, essentially.
Yep.
That takes place a few years into the future, so there's a little bit of technology that's made up.
Which one? Is the drone is the only one?
Well, she pulls that clear plastic
Oh, that's
thing.
right.
I mean, it's the technology is not significant,
Oh, it's
but
not.
it's...
I mean, the thing is, there is no point to actually set it up in the close future, because most of the technology that they display is why did you try to make it this a bit more sci-fi? Because the only thing that actually struck me, it was about you want to display something about the reality of where Brazil is on this reality that you're painting. I don't know if you realize that they saw the TV for a second, and it's on the TV they say that there is a mass execution happening in Sao Paulo, and it makes you think it's what has happened to reality for just getting to this dystopia, but they never saw it.
Yes, you're completely right. And if you think, wasn't it just last year that the president of Brazil announced he had placed snipers on buildings across Sao Paulo to murder criminals in the streets like cockroaches?
Yeah.
So it's not far off from reality, frankly.
Yeah.
And I will say that something that's interesting that is kind of important to the story is that the local school teacher is teaching kids about maps, and they pull up Google Maps, and all of a sudden their town has just disappeared.
Yeah. And that was just basically after they turned the politician down, the mayor down. It's at that point is that that something is starting to happen. So they don't have it on Google Maps. Then they try to check online, it doesn't show up. It's basically they rewrote and they just try to remove them from the face of Earth.
And then these mercenaries show up that are German, American, and I think there was a Brit.
No. They're all American, because even the German, he said that he has been living for 40 years in the States.
Yeah, but, well, yes, I just think it's important that they were calling out a lot of the European countries that had fucked Brazil over, and America that's fucked Brazil over.
Sure.
And...
Did they call Portugal out? Or what European countries did they call out?
Well, they called out the Italians, the Germans, and the Americans specifically. When they talk about the settlements in the rich state.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of this is about colonizers that came and left this fucked up system.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, the movie is not subtle about like that message at all, you know. And then at the end, it's like basically it's like just this, the village survives. Is that they actually fight back and they kill all the invasors.
Yeah, there's a lot of death on both sides, but they finally win.
Yeah, I mean, they don't kill so many people from the village. They kill the kid and a couple of other ones, but it's mostly, well, they kill like people when they are like just arriving.
Yeah.
But when the battle happens, is most of the invaders are the ones.
Oh yeah.
The invaders, the ones that they actually die. And it's interesting that at the beginning of the movie we see that there is a truck that it just flip over on the road, and there is ton of caskets.
Not subtle.
Not subtle at all. And at the end is that they actually bring them more caskets, you know, and even the politician, I think that he brings caskets. That is, I bring like supplies, blah blah blah, and caskets, and it makes you think that is basically this Bacurau represents like the last bastion of defense of what Brazil is. You know, like the traditional kind of community values and everything. You know, in contrast with the invaders, that they don't have like strong morals or anything. Like for example, I just killed this. Is that they gave me point? Let's fuck. There is there is no morals of any kind. Is that they're celebrating like the death of someone.
And after they had massacred some of the villagers hung up bloody clothes, and they were like savages.
Exactly.
I found myself frustrated that they never gave motivation to the mercenaries, because I wanted to know more. Like, how is this justified? It wasn't the point. I get it, but I was like, first off, it's interesting. Who is this this squad of murderers that came to play games with the lives of?
It didn't matter.
It didn't matter.
I mean, basically, it's like just from the first point that they show up, when they are being held by these two Brazilian guys that they end up murdering, is that you know that they are hired by the politician. That is basically like, and our politicians are like so corrupt that they're allowing all of this still just happening nowadays.
And in fact, at the very end, the mayor shows up
Yep.
in a nice van to pick up the Americans, the squad, and there's a nice water bottle in each seat. Just clearly, it was disgusting.
Yeah.
So I will say that when this film ended, okay, so I want to say this one thing. The film is mostly told through not the story, but it follows this woman who did she come from Sao Paulo?
I think so, yeah.
She's
coming back
for her grandmother's funeral.
Exactly.
Her grandmother is black, and she's the matriarch of this little town. And for the first third or half of the movie, there's no exposition. They don't really introduce much beyond black and white photos of this town and the people in it.
Yep.
So you're kind of left to discover the secrets in the streets of these towns, and the village really comes to life in an insanely beautiful way with the three-dimensional characters. Even though we didn't get to know them or hear them talk, they were so well developed as characters. And I was actually reading a review, and I'll explain why I read so many reviews after this, that apparently it's very similar to Seven Samurai? In that Kurosawa likes to insert himself firmly in a geographical place, and the story has a lot to do with that place as well as the characters.
Depicting a reality, and especially, they show up the museum a couple of times from outside, and there is one of the biggest fights. It actually happens there. I like actually when they are cleaning all the blood that it was behind, that they say that don't clean the walls. I want to keep that as part of the story, because it makes, once again, it reinforces that everything that has happened here is not the first time, and probably won't be the last. Is that there is a village of survivors that they just are here, let's say.
So I wanted to talk about the granddaughter, who is at least half black, and her grandmother who's fully black, Carmelita.
And the father is also black.
Okay, I missed that. But this film, when it ended, I was like, I missed so much. There are cultural references to Brazil that part of the gravitas of this was mixed. So I was doing research into the film, and apparently it's extremely significant, this type of town. And I told myself I was going to learn the Portuguese words. I didn't. But there's a specific name for this type of town, and apparently they're all over this area in Brazil, in the specific state where this story takes place. And these villages were founded by slaves who escaped. And so there's a specific name for them, and so like I didn't know that, and I found that out in a review, and so there's this entire idea of resistance against foreign influences, against domestic influences, oppressors, oppressees, surveillance, which is heavily like there's so much here that it's, I don't know, it's just such a commentary on Brazilian politics and, you know, the politics of colonizers, that I will say I enjoyed this film, but I think I missed at least half of what was intended.
Yeah. I had to say that for me, it didn't land. For me, it was like, I see what they were doing, you know, I saw like the kind of social commentary, you know, like from the high level perspective, and also like some of the aspects of the internal reality of the village, you know, albeit I'm not that familiar with Brazil as a whole, but it almost feels that it tries to depict a reality in its own, you know, a bit more of a, we are isolated from everything else, we exist here, and you're almost like just stuck out of time. And we have like all the units of things that we need for not depending on anything from outside, except the water, that they actually just fuck them over about the water. But the problem that I had, as I was telling you before we started recording, I watched it in 2 sittings. Sunday was like extremely exhausted. I watched half of it, and on Monday I finished watching the second part. And I think that this is a movie that is so clean cut from the first act to the second act. You know, once that you have seen like the Tarantinian-like conversation on the table of the American invaders, is that from that point, it turns into another movie. From that point on,
which I think is what they wanted.
Yeah. But I think that it's like if you don't consume it like one back to another, it's like a thing that you can see a bit more like the seams of how these 2 parts like trying to stick together, you know. And it's like if I take only like the second part without the first one, I don't think that it has like the same kind of impact, because what it has more impact is actually just seeing like these people suffering, these normal people, like just earthly people, salt of the earth kind of people, like they're just having to face this struggle. If you split one part from the other, I just feel it's like an action hero kind of movie.
I completely agree, and I think the first act is the one I enjoyed the most, where you just kind of explore this little town through the eyes of I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
And then, like, there's this bridge between the two where this drone appears, and it's shaped like a UFO, and...
Why not?
Slowly, like, it felt a lot like, honestly, Dollhouse, and how Dollhouse just fucking jumped the shark at some point. And I'm joking because Jose liked that show, and I started out liking it.
I never watched it.
It must have been Paul. Somebody used to joke about it.
Marcus was like a Joss Whedon fan, but
okay,
I don't like Joss Whedon. Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's so weird.
No, I mean the only thing that I like from him is like just Cabin in the Woods, and he only produced it.
Okay, all right. So Dollhouse starts out with this kind of intriguing like premise, like she's a prostitute, but she doesn't. I don't know. I won't go into it. But then all of a sudden, this enormous conspiracy is revealed, and it changes everything. The film worked for me until the UFO showed up, and there are some genuinely shocking moments that I thought were cinematic and impressive and emotionally like impactful, and while also being, I don't think it's brave, but it is brave to kill a child, and like the mercenaries kill a child, and these are like genuinely shocking moments. We don't see it, but at the end, a child was murdered in cold blood.
Yeah, but we don't see do we even see the? Oh yeah, we see the corpse, like the mother like just crying next to the corpse, I think.
And we see the guy who's killing him while he's killing the boy. We just don't see them kill the 9-year-old kid.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it got reduced to a spaghetti western, and I'll say they're adept at directing. Whoever directed it. Like, yeah. It was tight, and apparently there was a very long reference to John Carpenter, but I didn't get it. But apparently they're like those sorts of filmmakers that there's homages everywhere, but yeah. I never know enough to pay attention to those. But yeah, I agree. The second the movie ended, I thought, this is it, and that's why I went to read. There must be something I'm missing.
Yeah. I have to say that I felt... It reminded me, and I know that it's going to be like talking like pretty poorly about this movie, but it reminded me a bit of Not Some Scandal from the perspective of when I finished, I wasn't like completely sure about like, did I really like this? Didn't I?
You did.
I did. And then it's like when things started like just to fall, like apart, that is like, holy shit. That's the reason what I also mentioned about like just joined by the Sims. Because I felt like in No Son Scandal there are like significantly more Sims. And it's that you see like the smoke and mirrors exercise. But it's a razzle-dazzle exercise about like, well, this is just sign. In this one I think that there is more than that sign. I think that there is something else. But for me, the second part is more like a distraction. It's more like if you had developed this world more, if you could have been like a bit more like just, I don't even want you to be subtle, but a bit more like developist about like what you're trying to do, I would have liked it a bit more.
So what would you have be more developed specifically? Is it the story? Is it the characters?
The world.
Okay.
Is like, for example, is like when they display just for a second about like the max executions, is like, I want to know more. When they are talking about like, oh, there are these murderers, blah blah blah, this Pacote and the other guy, Lanier or something like that. I don't remember what was his name in the movie, but it's like, it almost feels like it's a deep fake what they're doing of them for just people to give them up.
And also, one of them was trans and was on the screen for like 3 minutes, and I was like, I want to know about her.
Oh, it was trans?
There was one where she speaks very
like
dramatically on the phone. No, she's darker skinned, she has long hair back in a ponytail. Anyway, I think...
Of the Americans or the...
No, the Brazilian.
Oh.
So I just think what we're both saying is that there were like interesting things they circled around and never fully developed.
Yeah, and there was like an interesting... I'm going to be like giving the answer to something, to one of the questions, but a part of me just thinks like this is part of something larger, is that they are telling me that this is something that happens on this village. It's like, it makes me think about like what else happens on this world. A part of me wants to know that it almost feels like this is part or piece of something, a larger kind of narrative. But another part of me just wonders, like, do I want to see more of it? And the answer is probably not. It's like if they're going to be like doing this kind of, like shake up about like, okay, now it's like a realistic movie, and now suddenly it's it's an action flick. It's like, what is the next thing? It's going to turn into a musical? It's going to be a comedy? It's going to be like a romantic comedy? Like
will there be killer mermaids singing?
Maybe that's exactly what this movie was missing.
So it's interesting your perspective on what the execution footage was, and I immediately thought, like, I browse Reddit from time to time and 4chan, and those sorts of videos from Brazil are all over the internet. People just getting murdered in the streets, and I thought it was just like a commentary of like, hey, this is our reality.
No, but it's like the mass well, yeah, about that one, yeah, but it's like they are actually just targeting like these two guys, the Pacote and the one that they are hunting, the one that is like in the tower in the dam, And at the beginning of the movie, the granddaughter says that I'm not going to be giving up this criminal.
Yeah.
Because she knows that he's not that criminal. The only crime is defending. Yeah, he's a vigilante, but they're only defending their house.
Yeah, just trying to get their water back that some corporation or politician took away.
Yeah, like just to get away. So. A part of me just thinks like, okay, they're trying to say that Brazil is like really corrupt and they could do like something like that. And they have the power for even removing a village from the map directly. But at the same time, it's like, why would they? Is it because if you really want to kill like this village and you have like the money for hiring these mercenaries from the States, I'm pretty sure that you could just like roll them over with anything.
That's an interesting point. Honestly, I thought when they deleted the town off the map, I thought it was going to be because they were going to kill everyone and take whatever rich resources were there, and then there was nothing there. They already took the water.
Yeah, there's nothing. It's that there are only the people, and the only part is the people there. When they actually remove it from the map, a part of me was thinking, say, oh, maybe this is like a dream or something like that, or is there some kind of purgatory that the city really never really existed, and it's a bit more of a figment of the imagination of people from Brazil.
Well, there's something we haven't mentioned yet. Like, from the second
psychotropics?
The woman arrives to the village, which is in the first, 2 minutes, they're all taking powerful hallucinogenics. Yep. And besides one scene where we see what she's seeing, which is water flowing out of the cascade, which, okay, we get it. They took your water, now you see water in her death.
Yeah.
they never really comment on it.
Yeah. See, I like at this point towards the end when they're like facing the German guy. I think that is like he's saying something like he doesn't say I'm sorry or is that what is going to happen to me, and someone says that look, we have taken a strongly psychotropic stacks all the villains.
You're going to die. He's like,
okay, cool.
what does that represent? Like, it's not coherent with the whole, like, you don't have to take psychotropic drugs to, like, do the resistance. I don't know. Or maybe the drug is, like, the pill in the Matrix. Like, you finally realize... Maybe.
I don't know. I mean, I think that, from my perspective, it was a bit more that, look, he's talking about, like, just old traditions from the Brazilian villages, from the people, the native people that they're here, and they're saying that, is that these people are actually... keeping it alive, is that they are a representation.
Well, none of those people are natives. They're also brought in by the colonizers. Black people were brought there as slaves for the Europeans. They're not natives.
I'm trying to think there were any natives or not. Yeah, well, I mean, they also dance capoeira in one of the scenes, like the granddaughter and the son, and they're both black. And actually, capoeira was like from the encampments.
The slaves. Yeah, I read that too. I didn't know that.
Oh, that's
so I think there's a lot here that's about slavery in Brazil. I don't know much about the history. So you used a phrase earlier, this failed to land for you.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I would say that the first act, I don't remember exactly where it was, worked for me. I thought, this is interesting, this is beautiful, the characters are cool.
The first part made me was like, okay, I want to see more. And we knew about this movie. We actually watched a trailer a long time ago, and we knew that there is something like a split point where actually the movie turns into something else.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we already knew that. That is like, at the end result is a bit of a weird thing that it may work or not. And for me, it was like, I would have preferred like just go like with a bit more of a realistic idea, you know, even not realistic. Remove all the action of the second part, because I don't think that there is so much message on the part. I don't know if there is like a lot of symbolism on the second part.
I don't know. I missed a lot, but that's what I'm saying.
I mean, the only one that I thought is that okay, I get it when they're like just having sex. That you wanna fuck? Sure. There is okay, cool, but at the same time we also see like the prostitutes. There are like a couple of prostitutes in the village. That's another thing that I feel is that it almost is a representation of Brazil. You know, is that like these villages that they say that from a statistical perspective they are a perfect representation of the whole country, because you have like this perfect distribution that represents the whole of the country. Is that I felt like that's what he was trying to do. Is that there are two whores, there is like this transvestite, there is
a matriarch, there's the girl who left her village to get an education, and
yeah, so it felt a bit more that okay, you're using like drops here, but I'm fine with those drops. I'm fine with the idea of I want more of those drops. I want to feel it more organic, and I think that's what I was telling you earlier. Is like half of the actors, I had the feeling that they are probably not real actors, and now the killers, the mercenaries, clearly they are not actors either.
Well, the German guy is a pretty famous actor.
That may be the only one that is acting from that bunch, because everyone else is it was cringeworthy.
Well, I imagine they were in Brazil and they're like, hey, American expats, come to the casting call.
But this is actually the only thing. They were not going for actors, they were going for people that they look American and they can actually speak with an American accent. That's it. That's the only criteria. And it actually shows. And I think that is like if you want to portray like villagers, it's like if you go for villagers, it's fine. But if you want to portray mercenaries and you don't have mercenaries, probably you have to go with actors.
There was one interesting conversation, you alluded to it earlier, and as a Tarantino-style conversation, and I found it very interesting because the mercenaries, again, maybe their passports were all American, but there was a German, there were Americans, and I think a Brit. And they hired 2 local Brazilians to take part.
Yeah.
And there's just this hideous scene where the Brazilians say, we're just like you. We come from a wealthy state where there's a lot of German and Italian settlements.
Oh, yeah.
And they were all like, whoa. You're not like us. You're not white.
Exactly. Like, that color is not white.
And it made me super uncomfortable, and it also made me want to dig into like the race relations in Brazil, and also...
That's super interesting, actually, that topic.
Yeah, I'm sure it's fascinating. Yeah. but I don't think the filmmakers had anything more to say, but you aspire to be the colonizers and they will never accept you.
Yeah, but it's basically the same thing that we were saying earlier with the politician about just being part of the complot. It's like him being like part who brings actually the mercenaries. It's not about the mercenaries just randomly show up there. It's a bit more like they are hired by the politician, you know. So from that perspective, I just feel like this part is like, I wish that it was a bit more developed. It's a bit more about like in Brazil. The only message that I took from it that is true about like, yeah, we are from settlements, from rich countries, you know, so we took all the riches that they stole, you know, and that's the reason why we're rich nowadays. But it also like just made me think that is the message of there is always going to be people willing to turn against their own.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
just like a premise, you know, about like just being more rich or whatever it is.
And then from like the cautionary tale perspective, but they'll turn on you. Like, so yeah, a lot of this seems a little obvious.
It's not subtle. It's so more like Fassbinder, not subtle. You know? That is, okay, we get it. It's Germany.
Yeah, and there's also a conversation about Nazis. Like, they're just constantly circling this. There are oppressors and there are oppressees, and that the filmmakers were obsessed with this idea that resistance only exists from the oppressees' side.
Yeah. Honestly, it's like, I'm not saying that I don't like it. You know, for me, it was just feel a bit more. It's like the landing is like, it's somewhat like seeing one of these like gymnastics exercise that you see like this amazing like pirouette, and at the end when he's going to land, it's like he just falls a bit, you know, in a way that is not that you feel like what a failure, but you feel a bit more like what a pity. It would have been good. And he's like, yeah, just screw it at the end.
So, should we answer the questions?
Yes, please.
Alright, let me pull them up. First one. Would you watch Bacurau again, Jose?
That's a really good question. Thank you. Like,
I don't know where I came up with it.
Yeah, whoever did it is a genius. I'm not sure. I think that I could. It was not like an unpleasant experience. I just felt like it could have been, and I'm giving another answer, it could have been more. But yeah.
I would not watch it again, not because it was bad. Like I said, I enjoyed it a lot, but there's nothing there that's like, I want to watch another 2+ hour movie like this again. It's not.
That's right.
I guess there's someone was like, show me an interesting Brazilian film from the last 3 years. That's probably what I would show.
Because if they say like 20 years, it would be like saying Cidade de Deus.
Yeah. Because those are the 2 Brazilian films I know.
I was wondering about that yesterday. Do I know any other ones? I said, no, I don't.
I bet we do. It just doesn't, like, in our minds identify as Brazilian. I mean, they did a sequel to City of God, so we know at least 3.
I never watched that one, so
Neither
I
did
know
I.
of his assistant, but I never watched it.
So, would you recommend this?
This is a pretty funny question, because when I started watching it at the beginning, I stopped like around the table scene. Is when I was falling asleep, and I actually recommended to someone. It's like, it's like, I think that this movie can be interesting. I haven't finished watching, but it may be an interesting exercise. You know, I think there is subtlety is not its forte, but I think that there is something interesting about it. So I recommended it. When I finished watching it, I almost regretted recommending it. So if I would recommend it to my parents, no, never. If I would recommend it to you, maybe.
So I would recommend it, like, if someone said, hey, I love flashy spaghetti westerns, I'd be like, you should check out this weird Brazilian film. Sure. Or if they said, hey, this is a social horror movie, and I think this movie only exists because of...
Seven Samurais?
No, the recent movie that, Jesus, let me in...
Leather riding? What?
About the white girl that like finds black guys to come to take from the city, and then the white people like take their souls and they live forever.
Get Out?
Get Out, sorry. I don't know why that, like, I'm not even high. So I think Get Out kind of revived the social horror genre, which examines social aspects through the horror genre.
But this movie is from what year? 3 years ago?
I think 2019.
Oh, so too. Okay.
Yeah.
Get Out was 2018, no?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if they were like just correlated. or not. Did you think about Tarantino while watching this movie?
Only from the aspect that they were aspiring spaghetti westerns.
Mm-hmm.
But that's I mean, it's not like it's not on that level. Not even
Oh
close.
no! I don't think that is like the quality is at the level. What I'm saying is like it's clear that both of them they really like the 70s, you know, the style that they use. But from the qualities that you like it, Tarantino can pull it. You can't.
Exactly.
And it's like it's not bad per se, but it's like it's pretty clear where your influences are. You know another movie that I thought about like this when watching this one, Mandy.
Interesting.
From the perspective of revenge porn.
And Mandy's better, in my opinion.
Yes, I think that. Well, but Mandy is an artistic exercise. You know, it's about like, look, we don't care too much about the substance of this. We care about like doing something that feels like ultra-violent 80s. And it succeeds 100% of what it's just trying to do. This one is like, it tries to be many things. It tries to be like the social commentary, it tries to be a spaghetti western, it tries to be a homage to the 70s. And I think that it succeeds to some degree.
Well, when you put it that way, maybe it just spread itself too thin, and it should have picked two of the 5 things it was trying to be.
That's true. And a sci-fi movie, of course.
Well, I will say it's interesting that we both said we would recommend it. I feel like that's kind of like...
I mean, I feel like maybe, you know, because I
in
still think
specific
that
situations.
yeah. I still feel like it's an interesting experiment.
I agree. It is interesting. It failed for me, but...
Yeah.
Will you remember it?
No.
I'm going to say no.
No. Talking with this friend yesterday, the last thing that I told him is that I'm not going to remember this in 6 months. I'm 100% sure that I'm going to remember it.
I feel like I might remember the name and that I saw it and that I was disappointed.
No, for me this is going to be like the... I love to say this title because I know that you always say like, how do you remember this? The Two Faces of January. Do you remember that one?
I mean, the basics, yeah.
Okay, you do.
I mean, the guy in Greece, he's a con artist. He finds rich Americans. He steals from them. Viggo Mortensen comes in and something.
Yeah, and
that's
something,
all.
and something.
Okay, is there anything artistic about it?
I think yes. I don't know exactly what. Now that I think about it.
There were some extremely beautiful shots of the town. I remember one of the church with the blue door. There was an attempt to visually make the framing beautiful.
Yeah.
It's funny because my initial answer to this is yes, but I also can't think of anything.
Yeah, I exactly felt like that when I finished watching. Is that well, at least it was artistically interesting. And then I was thinking, is that well, I mean, if he was going for the 70s atmosphere, it failed at that. If it was going to be like just going a bit more of fast pace and frantic, you know, in some specific scenes, I cannot recall any of them. And then I started like, where was it? Where is this that elevates it from a TV film? From an artistic perspective.
That's so accurate, and I remember I did have high hopes for this film, and the second that UFO showed up, I was like, oh no.
He said, why did you do that? He said, you don't need it.
It's so distracting.
Yeah.
And it makes no sense.
Yeah, it's just use a regular, you know, like one of these like drones with the camera. It's just like, no one's going to be like, caring about that. You don't have to put it like in the close future. It's like, just use reality right now. This exists.
Yeah, like their current political climate is scary enough for making a UFO drone. Okay.
But it's like, he
not
doesn't
that America's isn't. I'm not criticizing Brazil.
Yeah, but what I mean is like they don't develop that part. It's like you're going to say it's like I'm going to be using that we are on the close future for just going with crazy ideas. It's like just develop them. Don't tell me that they're like being mass executions in Sao Paulo without telling me why.
And I did say that there's very little exposition in terms of developing the characters, but I do feel the UFO is just a cheap excuse to provide like an omniscient perspective of what these mercenaries were doing. That I really didn't like that.
Yeah, and from the perspective I was like, oh, they have more technology than us, but we will still survive with the weapons of our ancestors. It was a drone. This makes no sense.
It was a drone, and I thought it was at least going to do something interesting. No, it just had a camera and flew around.
Yeah.
So we will not remember this. There's nothing. There's nothing artistic. Sorry, I'm taking notes.
Thank you.
Is it a timeless piece?
I don't know, man. I honestly don't know, because I think that the topics, like what is like the core, the metaphorical core that he's trying to depict, I think that is timeless. Timeless from 3 centuries ago, let's say, But it's like, I don't know, it's like how they actually just try to say is that this is close features. Like, if you had done it with this is the technology, this is what we have, and it doesn't matter. They have like these, clean plastic surfaces. Is that that's not about it. It's not about just making a difference. About like they're richer, they have better weapons and everything, but we will beat him. He said that doesn't matter. It doesn't make any kind of difference. At the end, it doesn't make any difference. So from my perspective, is that part, the execution, I think that is a bit more timely.
I respect that. I will say that it's the way that it addresses slavery in Brazil's past, the whole colonizers versus colonizers, that stuff is timeless, but I feel like it firmly rooted itself because of this weird, futuristic technology. It's like...
Yeah, that's the part I feel like the more that we talk about it, the more peace I feel about it. It's like, what were you thinking? Is that the material that you had, the idea, that someone came up with, that is, hey, let's do this metaphor. He's like, okay, it's not subtle, but it's good. He said, why did you want to just enrich it in a way that then you don't develop? And it's just hooking you to where we are.
So I was telling you that I read the filmmakers had been developing this idea since 2009, and it's almost like they had a futuristic idea for some technology in 2009 and then they never updated it.
Oh my goodness. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Then that's just a guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. Would you turn this into a TV show?
This is an interesting one. My answer is yes, I would turn it. I would never watch it.
I would also turn it into a TV show. I think there's enough there with the villagers.
Yep.
And like I said, they already did. It's called Dollhouse.
Okay, now part of me wants to see Dollhouse.
Do you think it could have been better?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Definitely yes. And it's the part. It's I feel like they're good ideas. A part of me is the problem is it's not enough well realized for even to me to think is that I want to watch more by this director, because this guy is potentially fire. I have no idea. You could be fire or you could be just on fire.
I would say, based on the reviews I've read, there seems to be a lot of respect from critics that I respect for this director's other work.
Right.
I would be open to seeing something else by him.
But this was pretty well received.
Very well received.
Yeah, that's the part. Is I felt, I don't know. For me, it almost felt as I split it in 2 parts, and I could actually just focus a bit more on each one of them. It felt like falling apart as a movie, as an exercise, as an experiment. I think that it was good, but it just left me confused
and a little bit disappointed. I don't know if that's my fault for having higher hopes, but I was disappointed at the end of this. I wanted to pull up the
NDB.
No, the Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh yeah, I think that it was pretty good.
I think it's in the 90s.
Yeah.
So that's. Is there anything left to say before we rate it?
I don't know, man. If you're, I still feel confused about it, because a part of me also really wants to like it more. I remember just watching the trailer and says that this can be amazing or it can be a train wreck. And at the end, it ended up just in the middle of nowhere. It ended up in a. It has been something.
The ending really was particularly disappointing. I thought they were going to resolve the water issue.
Yeah.
They didn't. They just killed a bunch of people.
Yeah, and they just throw the mayor into the forest. I had to say that at least I liked this.
I bet you did.
Yes, I did. And then he's let me just rewind.
For fans of the male form, there's actually quite a feast in this film.
Yeah, there is several naked guys, and there is this guy that actually the mayor is mostly, I would say that he's white.
Yeah.
No?
Not according to the colonizer standard the racist Americans put forth, but now, today, yes, those people.
Yeah. It's what you would consider probably white, And I don't think that actor choice was a coincidence. I think that it was just completely on purpose for just portraying that people in power, they're going to be just cleaner skin, clearer, not cleaner. Sorry, my bad.
Or those are the people who are going to get the advantages in the world.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And I also like that the guy was like a hairy chap. A lot. And they sent it riding a donkey into the desert.
So that's going to like bump your score up by at least half a point.
Maybe.
Okay.
Let's just see.
So this was my pick.
So we don't score, we just leave it in the air.
No, I picked my score a long time ago.
Okay.
But it's my pick, you have to score, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So my score, I dance a lot around this. I'm going to say, and I think that we both like experiments, even if they don't land, but at least that we appreciate that there is like boldness, you know? For me, it's a 6.5.
That's my score, exactly. This is better than a mediocre film you would see in a theater. They tried to do some interesting things. It blends genres like fucking crazy. And I appreciate all of that. But overall, it didn't achieve what it went out to do.
Yeah, but at least it aspires to do something.
Exactly.
And that's something that is like, what did we watch this time? Dracula? Yeah, but I still don't know what Dracula was trying to do.
Well, I gave Dracula a 6, so...
I think that this is better. But I think that the execution in Dracula... Well, let's just leave it there. We don't have to go back to this.
So, Jose, this is our 99th episode.
Yep, it's our 99. So... Actually, our next one, we are not making the same mistake that we did with episode 50, Anthony Darko, let's not forget that. And we're going to watch like one of my favorite early sci-fi movies that I'm still impressed that you have never watched, because it's always in this list of top 100 movies to watch.
So I'll just be clear, before the podcast, he gave me 4 choices. They were Citizen Kane.
There were actually 5. Because initially we were having like another plan, yeah.
But the 4 classics to do for our 100th episode, Citizen Kane, Casablanca, Metropolis,
and Sunset Boulevard.
I narrowed that down to Metropolis or Citizen Kane because we just want Mank. I gave you the final choice. What did you pick?
Yes. Okay, so probably most of the audience already knows that Citizen Kane is not one of the earliest sci-fi movies. So I actually went with Fritz Lang classic from 1927, I think, Metropolis.
Yeah, so I just want to be... I'm not completely against sci-fi. I mean, 2049... You
didn't like Blade Runner.
I love Blade Runner 2049.
But you didn't like the first one. That is the good one.
But I love Sunshine.
Oh my God.
I will say that sci-fi...
Do you like... No. We have to address this every single time that you bring it up. Do you like all Sunshine? You cannot choose. This is not a pick and choose situation.
I don't like all of Sunshine.
Okay.
But I liked the futuristic technology.
Yeah.
But sci-fi, yeah, it's not my favorite genre. And I will say that I used to... there was a phase when I went on a silent film streak.
Oh.
Until I tried to watch the super racist one that's like 3 hours long.
Oh, this one,
it's super famous. It's about the Civil War.
Yeah, The Birth of a Nation.
Yeah, and that, I was like, I'm never watching a silent film.
Yeah, it's funny because The Birth of a Nation, they still mention it from time to time in film studies as where most of our editing techniques on modern cinema come from, if I recall correctly, but no one ever saws it. You know, nowhere like this is where it comes from. You guys only need to remember the title. Is that let's just move on. You know, there is other stuff that we can watch.
So that was the last silent film I've seen, and for our 100th episode, we'll be going to Metropolis. Frankly, I'm just hoping it's like the sci-fi game that I love so much, the one where you go under the sea. And there's like a Art Deco world that the lunatic...
BioShock.
I'm hoping it's just BioShock, but silent.
I would say that, you know, like Ken Levine, the director of that studio of Irrational Software, he found inspiration on the Art Deco that you can find on some early, you know, like sci-fi movies. You know.
So we'll see.
Just saying. All right. Anything else to say about Bacurau? Bacurau.
No, that's it.
Alright. Well, to all those 5 listeners listening to us out there, because probably we lost 2 along the way today. Thank you so much for listening, and
wash your hands.
Bye.